Hi, guys. Hey, Beth. I see you popping in on the chat. Hey, Jamie.
Hey there.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Amazing.
Good. As you guys are coming in, if you're coming in on the Zoom or if you're watching with us in the Facebook group, say hello. Tell us where you're coming from. I am Vicki Cook, and I have the honor and the privilege to share with you guys Jaime Cross and introduce her to you for those of you who haven't had a chance to hear her beautiful story. And just a little bit about me. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I have two kids, two boys, married to my husband who's a firefighter. And I have been in network marketing, you guys, for 7 years. I've been doing it mostly as a side gig. So I would say I represent probably the 85 percenters out there. For those of you who've been doing it and you're doing it as a side gig, let us know. But the beautiful thing about this industry is that it's for everyone, whether you want to do it as a side gig, part-time, full-time, or even in some cases like me, I've been laid off twice, you guys. And how cool is it that I had something like this to fall back on? But you know what? Last year I was working in my full-time career and I had a side gig that I was pretty content with. And I wasn't looking for anything new, but I didn't realize that where I was with the company I was working alongside with, that it wasn't quite checking off all the boxes until I actually had the opportunity to hop on a Zoom just like this one and meet Jaime and hear her story myself. It was almost a year ago already. And I remember getting on and watching her sit from her living room just like she is right now with her family. And it felt so different to me. I was like, wow, this is really different. I think maybe because some of the other companies I had partnered with, it was already big and very corporate feeling and not very grassroots at all. And so I think that was one thing that kind of caught my attention. And then the other thing, which Jamie's going to do so great tonight, is share her heartfelt story about how the whole entire company got started. And it's just an incredible story, and her vision and her mission and her heart for other people and serving others really aligned with me. And I thought, wow, this is something very special. And I really want to take a closer look. And so that was, before she had even transitioned into the social selling platform. And I just said, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but this is something I for sure want to be a part of. So I just sort of locked arms, stayed close, dialed in, watched the things as they evolved. Of course, fell in love with all of her amazing products because that's important too. But one of the things that I knew is that when she'll share this with you guys too, is that with a 72% return happy customer shopping rate, that speaks volumes in and of itself. I knew that her products and her business was proven already. So just partnering with her to launch on the ground floor and be part of the grassroots transformation and trailblaze into this industry got me super fired up. And so I'm hoping that when you hear Jaime's story tonight, you feel the same thing, that you really listen with your heart, because whoever invited you here cares dearly about you and thinks that you have something special that could align with this business and with Jaime and with them and with the rest of us. And I'm excited for Jaime to share a little bit more with you so you can hear what makes us different here in MIG. Jaime?
Thank you so much, Vicki. Oh my goodness, it has almost been a year now. I forgot. Like, man, we're already into August. How did that happen?
I know.
Oh,
It's going fast, so don't blink.
yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. I just love your work. I love your heart and appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, welcome to all of our newbie people here that are just, what's MIG all about? You've got questions, you're kind of peeking around, and I've got my third son, Benjamin, here with us tonight. I have 4 boys, one more boy on the way. So I'm a boy mom.
Yeah.
And but ultimately we've been doing our discovery calls now since really I think it's been since September of last year. And so when we first started, we had 7 people on that very first call, and it's exciting to see where we are now. And here we are, you know, gosh, we launched in April of this year, April 27th, and in October of this year, we'll have celebrated 10 years. I'm sorry, my boys are distracting me. Okay, you can't ask me questions while I'm on my call. Okay, sorry guys. So October 5th of this year, we'll celebrate 10 years of being in business, which is so exciting because I feel like everything now doing what we're doing, I look back on these last 10 years and I think, wow, everything we've accomplished and built has prepared us to fully serve this amazing tribe that we're building now. And so I'm going to share the story, kind of where we've come from, and really dive into why transition over into a social selling model, and then how that impacts all of you and what you guys what all of you guys get to participate in as we're building this grassroots movement, as Vicki said. So thanks again, Vicki. Okay, so yeah, it was 2010. I was 2.5 years into full-time motherhood. I would love to see here who we have that's come from the corporate world, in the corporate world, and all of our stay-at-home parents here. Would love to just hear like, yes, that's me. I come out of corporate banking, did the whole finance thing, making really good money. I was in, crushing sales, doing all those great things. And when we finally found out we were going to have our first child, we were like, well, do I do the whole like working mom thing, or do I come home and give this whole salary up? And so we really went back and forth on that and finally decided, okay, I'm going to come home. And 2.5 years into that season of being a full-time mother, I just knew, and I think so many moms can relate to this, and dads, I just knew that there was more. And I knew that there was something bursting inside of me to come out. And there were two real big struggles in that season. One was our bills, we were just not cutting it. My husband was like teaching full time. He was coaching wrestling. He was doing these like landscape side gigs. And somehow we were still getting calls from utility companies. And this particular struggle of a week, I just remember being in the grocery aisle, going to check out, and my debit card declining. And I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, but it's one of the worst feelings in the world. Sometimes I still have PTSD from that, like remembering those moments of, oh my goodness, So one particular night, between the financial struggle and just the internal soul struggle of knowing that I had spent my whole life dreaming about what kind of a life I wanted to build and what I wanted to do for people, and yet we couldn't pay our utility bills. And how many of you guys know it really is impossible to change the world or to really make an impact in your community, or whatever the dreams that you have to help people is almost impossible to do when you can't buy groceries, when you can't pay your bills. And that was my whole focus, and I just thought, this is not my life. So went to bed one night just bawling my eyes out. This particular week, I remember Nathan coming home. He had a gift card he tried to sell. Somebody had given us an ice cream card gift card, and he tried to sell it and nobody would buy it. And it was just like, this is not this is not what we're doing. So I went to bed one night, just breaks in my chest, bawling my eyes out. And I just asked the Lord and cried out to him and said, God, show me $1 billion idea so that I can change the world and leave a legacy for my family. And went to church that Sunday. And our pastor is in the middle of his message, and he comes to the edge of the stage and he stops his whole sermon and he looks around the room and he says, this has never happened to me before, but the Lord just spoke to my heart and said that there's a stay-at-home mom here who he wants to give $1 billion idea to, so get ready for it. And of course, I'm nursing my newborn, like ready to toss the baby into whoever's sitting next to me. I think Nathan was probably sitting there. And it was just like, my heart was screaming like, Lord, pick me, just whatever you give me, I'll be faithful with it. And whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it. And it wasn't too long after that that I had the MIG dream, and I saw myself, there were all these beautiful giant vats of oil, and MIG came up out of these oils as I was pouring them in these purple flowers. And it's interesting because now one of the first things I did was I was like, where can I find what's like the history of purple flowers? And I found some um, in ancient biblical history, the hyssop plant, which was a cleansing, like all-purpose antiviral herb plant. And so we've incorporated that in one of our product lines now. So I remember waking up from this dream and saying, Nathan, I'm going to start a skincare company. And he said, go, babe. And if you see that anywhere, that's where that comes from. So definitely buy the t-shirt and do all the go, babe things, because we should all be supporting each other. um, so here I am, I am a farm girl with a banking background, corporate, not knowing anything about formulation, but I knew I had to learn. And so I think the first thing I always want to encourage people is whatever the dream is in your heart, whatever limitations you think are really there, the truth is just getting an understanding and learning is something that's the only thing stopping you from taking the next step. And so it starts with yes. And so my yes was, I'm going to start this company and I have no idea how to do that, but I'm going to learn. And so went out that day and got every book I could find on chemistry and Ayurvedic medicine, naturopathic healing, and just herbalism, and started to study the human body and herbal formulations and chemistry. And within a year of doing the 2 o'clock in the morning nursing babies and researching chemistry thing and every nap time and all the seconds and moments I could find, I was ready to formulate our first product. And I did that, and it was a bar of spearmint oatmeal soap, and passed it out to friends and family and just local community, and was getting phone calls not too long after that like, Jaime, this is the best bar of soap I've ever tried in my life. And of course, it's like, darn straight, it better be. I spent the last year of my life doing this thing. And I can tell you, as I share here, part of the foundation and one of our key pillars that really is a differentiating factor is how and why we formulate the way that we do. And so everything that's on our product line right now, I've formulated from the position that, number one, the body's designed to heal itself. And so we as individuals who, part of our whole thing too is education, giving people their power back in their health. And it's our responsibility to nourish, and we can impede health and the body's natural rhythms with skincare and what we eat and those kinds of things. And so my philosophy is that whatever you wouldn't put in your mouth, you shouldn't put on your skin. And so that's the very first thing. The second thing is that everything we do is built to transform and deliver and over deliver results. I didn't get into this to be like okay or mediocre or even number two. I got into this knowing that we had to dominate in our space, which, by the way, is naturopathic herbalism, like skincare, this whole natural beauty industry is one of the fastest growing industries on the planet. I look back now, I'm like, thank goodness we got into this 10 years ago, because we have a brand and we have something that truly is set apart and unique. And part of that is just the kind of delivery we have, the fact that we've been able to serve people in a way that creates transformation. So took those products, those soaps, and just hit the streets. My mom would pick us up, load 2 babies in the back of the car. She would follow me 8 or 9 hours a day, multiple times a week, as I would walk up and down the streets of Denver, talking to owners and buyers and just building and selling our company, or building our company and selling our products. And within about a year, we were really, we had a very solid foundation of growth and local presence here in Colorado. And from that point, it was like, okay, I really want to understand what people wanted. Somebody asked me the other day, why did you get out of wholesale retail? Like, why didn't you try to go into big box natural grocery stores and these great big things? And I had enough vision at the time to know that not only was retail dying, but I could not control the experience of my customer. And I felt so disconnected from her and from him. And I wanted to be able to like give this experience. And so jumped into farmers markets for 4 years. And that first year at markets was like, I mean, I heard it all, every skin problem, every like ailment of, I've been to this I've tried this lotion and potion. I've spent all this money on product and nothing's worked. And Jaime, can you help me? And of course, the best businesses are built on solving real problems for real people, which is the whole point of like doing the market research, and the farmers markets really were a great way to dive into that. So I took my formulations back to the drawing board for thousands of hours, literally. Like, we put the boys to bed, we'd do dinner, and my day would start. And sure enough, within a year of just going back and forth with, getting feedback from people, and, especially when you're talking about skincare, it's so funny because it's like, I would get all the things like, oh, we want all the hydration, but we don't want to feel it on our skin, and we don't want it to smell too heavy, but we want it to be like this perfect balance of essence. And so getting all of those things to perfection was the focus on that first year. And so sure enough, by the time I embarked on my second year, we had 95% of people coming back to our table saying, Jaime, I literally have tried everything, and to no avail. I've spent so much money on all these things. And I even had doctors and dentists and like professionals coming to my table saying, I've thought my whole life that natural products don't work. And you guys can raise your hand if you've heard that or said that before. But that was something I was dead set on defying, because people told me that. Even mentors were like, natural products don't work, Jaime. You should probably try to go more clinical. And I'm like, heck no. Like, I know too much about what we can do for the body. And there's a really great quote. I'll have to remember it later, but something along the lines of, it truly is in our power to heal our bodies, and we can do that through nature. And so within that year, it was like, man, all the people coming back saying, I've been using your products for 3 days or for a week or for the last summer, and all these transformations are happening. So we were well on our way to building a solid brand built on delivering. And I think that's so critical early on. In my research phase, I was getting really ticked off as I was studying in the marketplace, who's doing what in the natural space. And I was appalled to find that so much of the natural beauty industry is built on good marketing, but not a lot of truth, and we say here in our whole culture, out with the old and in with the truth. Because I mean, I would hear and see marketing around, it's natural, it's pure, it's safe. You've got a picture of a baby or like a commercial with a baby, and or a leaf on the front of the packaging. And it's like, when you look at the actual ingredients, you would never sit down and want to eat any of those ingredients, maybe a few, or they've like dusted a couple. Actually, as I've worked with Dr. Nelson, the naturopathic doctor who I co-formulated our supplements with, he calls it, he said there's an actual term in the naturopathic industry where it's like you're just fairy dusting like some really nice looking ingredients just so that you can put it on your panel, but your baseline isn't really truly natural. And so our whole thing is, if you were stranded on a desert island, and I don't recommend doing this, this is not a claim, but you could eat our skincare. I mean, everything is farm fresh and sourced from, our sources are clean, and all over the world we're getting our essential oils grown indigenously. So like when you look at our eucalyptus, it's grown in Australia. Our Dead Sea mud comes from Israel. And so we have our farm fresh beeswax here in Colorado. We're one of the largest purchasers of farm fresh beeswax. I actually just talked to my farmer yesterday because I went to the farmer's market and he's there, and I was interviewing him about animal cruelty, because we have lots of questions about how we treat our bees. And he was like, I do what I do because I'm passionate about it. It's not about the bottom line for me. It's about the fact that I love our bees. He's like, I can't even imagine doing to our bees what a lot of these commercial industries are doing to bees. And so we work with small farmers all throughout the US who have that philosophy. They do what they do because they care about the soil, they care about the land, and they care about their trade. So let's kind of dive into moving forward. I went from farmers markets to digital marketing, and it was like, it's time to grow again, and I didn't know anything about online marketing on how do you take a product that I've been like touching and feeling people's hands and letting them smell, and how do you translate to an online presence and make your products come alive? And so it took me about a year to crack the code, but finally when we did, in less than a 2.5 year period, we've done over 8 figures. So we grew very quickly. And I believe it was because we had so much foundation and so much just understanding what people really want. And we're here to solve problems and to serve people well. So from that point, it was last year, and I'll pivot here into why social selling and how does this really affect all of you? You know, what is this great movement that you all have an opportunity to participate in? It was last year, and for 8.5 years up until last year, I'd been told by countless people. My very first mentor I sat down with, and I was like, here's my idea. He's like, Jamie, you should start a multi-level. And I was like, heck no, man, are you kidding me? I will never do that. There's no way. And Nathan and I actually had spent 10 years on the field, and I just was like, too much just stuff. And I've got a clean brand and it's making this impact, and it's amazing. And wait, that was in the beginning though, so I didn't have that yet, but I was just like, no way, I'm gonna pave my own path. And so over the course of years, leaders, and I got to ask a billionaire a question at a conference, and he was like, Jamie, you should start a multi-level. You should read my book. And I was like, that's terrible advice coming from a billionaire. I will never do that. But sure enough, last year, I was beginning to feel really restless, knowing that I just felt like there's more and there's this greater impact that we're supposed to be making. And even though we're helping people in their health and their skin, I had this vision. Actually, and it started back in 2015 when I started the Her Effect, because I had this vision, and I had spoken with so many women specifically who were struggling with depression. And I was kind of in that place when I first asked God for the idea. And so many people like, I have this dream, but I've set it aside, or I don't think I can do business and family. I think I'm limited here. And my whole message, and our whole message, and the people that are jumping on board here, their whole message is you can do it all. You can have a family, you can build a business, you can create impact in your community, in your world. And there's nothing stopping you except for maybe what we've believed from society. And so that was something that I started in 2015. And so last year it was like, man, how am I going to bring this whole world of organic or just, natural wildcrafted beauty to expansion? And so I'm sitting there with Nathan for our 16-year wedding anniversary. We're at Disney World at Epcot. I'm eating my pasta at this little French cafe. We're talking, and out of nowhere, I felt the prompting of the Lord. He spoke to my heart, and he said, Jamie, start doing your research. And at the time, it was like, I didn't even have to wonder what he meant by that. I was like, put my fork down. I was like, Nathan, I think I'm supposed to start researching the multi-level social selling business model. And he, of course, was like, go, babe, And so it was, I could not wait to get home. I'm like, okay. And I dove headfirst into about 90 days of solid research. And so I'm going to share some data on what is this whole multi-level marketing industry really all about, and what is our role in the industry, and what part do we play, and what is this movement? What is this thing that we're really doing? So did all my research. The very first thing I discovered, which totally blew me away, is that the multi-level marketing industry is by far the most powerful industry on the planet because everyone can win. The only way for one person to win is to help other people win. And when I go back to like even thousands of years ago, like they were doing some of those things, and it works. And what's really happened is in my 90 days of research, I interviewed CEOs. I traveled all over the country talking to I went to a logistics facility. I talked to owners of other multi-level companies. I talked to executives of other companies. And I read biographies and books, and I was just like data, data, data. And sure enough, if you look back, even when multi-level marketing officially started, it was in the late 1800s. And then through the Great Depression and through some really interesting times in American history, these owners were founding multi-level marketing companies for a couple reasons. One is, and this is the beauty of the industry, you didn't have to have, college or a degree or even a high school education to be successful in this business model. You could start very low risk, no capital investment really. I mean, if you can compare it to traditional business, like what I've done and built all the years, I mean, in multi-level marketing, you can create transformation in your legacy. It's like equal to the amount of work you're willing to put in. It's like, man, it took me 6.5 years to develop a product line, prove a product line, create a marketing strategy, scale online, figure all the things out. But you can step into multi-level marketing and literally within 30 days, you go out there and put the work in, you can do way more damage than it took me so long to get there. And so all these amazing things, and one of the really powerful things I discovered too is that it's an industry that thrives in economic downturns. So if you look at the Great Depression and all these eras especially in American history, how it's thrived overseas in countries where they don't have what we have, and it continues to just blow up. And so some of the numbers too that are just really, they tell the story. Between 2009 and 2017, social selling did $1.5 trillion. I mean, that is a lot of zeros. That's a lot of impact. In our family, and I know a lot of our ambassadors that are here with us feel the same way, but to me, revenue and profit and wealth equals impact. You can do so much more when you have resources. And I look at finances too as oxygen. And so when the less you have, the more you're like, I can't breathe. As soon as you breathe freely, you're like, oh, who else can I give air to? And I know, like, how many of you guys, when you think about your life, you think about the kind of impact you want to make. I mean, for me, one of my first goals was like, I want to be the girl standing in line at the grocery store behind the woman who can't pay for her groceries, and bust out my debit card and be like, here, I'll take care of it, And now the conversations we're having around impact and orphanages and upping our game with human trafficking and just all the things we want to do for people comes down to how much wealth can we create, and then how many people can we teach to do the same thing. And so we can do that here in this model. And so of course I'm reading through this book that Peter Daniels, the billionaire, who I got to ask a question. He's like, read my book. So I bought his book and didn't read it for like 4 years, 5 years. I'm reading through his book, and part of my whole thing was, if we do this, we can't just start something and be like everyone else. As a matter of fact, I was talking to my media director the other day. She's like, one thing you don't tell Jamie Cross is, let's do it like everyone else. Because I'm like, no, we have to be different. We have to be better. We have to be number one. We have to dominate. And I thought, man, there's so many companies doing this, but how are we going to really separate ourselves? And so as I'm reading through Peter Daniels' books, he's got 33 points of these things need to change in order to improve, in order to have a solid business model, as well as, actually do something really powerful in the industry. And so 33 points, I was reading through these, like, there needs to be a training system. And I thought, I can solve that problem. That's like, I'm already there, like already creating that anyway, because I want to equip people. The whole relationship factor between corporate and the field, and tearing that veil and creating camaraderie. And I thought, that's the only way I would do it. He talked about comp plan and a lot of revving of the wheels and spinning of the engine, but not a lot of traction. Like, how do you give people traction in this industry and help them get results? I'm like, well, we're absolutely going to do that. And so I came to the point in the book where he said, the social selling business model in and of itself is the most powerful business model on the planet because everyone can win. But people have really come along and really messed it up, greed and manipulation and control and just really a lot of lack of the things that he mentioned needs to be created. Part of it comes down to just training people, giving them tools to lead well and to grow as people. He said, um, but if there was a person or a leader who came along and restored this industry back to what it was originally intended for, it would be a force on the earth. And that is what I said yes to. I mean, for me, it was like case closed, game over. My research is done. This is a solid yes for me. And I know that so many of our ambassadors, they've said yes to the same thing. We want it. We're doing something different. We're transforming an industry. We're restoring a model that truly is the most powerful model on the planet. And so, so here's how we're moving forward now. April 27th, we launched into beta, which means we have a couple more months left now in beta before we actually do full-blown launch. The cool thing about the beta phase is there's so much grassroots like building with people can come along and be part of the very beginning stages. And the comp plan is active. So there's 3 things that really do separate us as a company at this point. And I know as we grow and build, there will be many more differentiating factors. But the first one is, of course, our results-driven products. The fact that if you look at our ingredients, there's no messing around. I mean, if you look at ingredients on a lot of the natural skincare companies right now, there are widely accepted toxic ingredients like phenoxyethanol. Look at some of the natural products out there and tell me that it's one of the preservatives that is claimed to be safe, but in my research, I'm like, this is not safe. It's not truly, purely clean. And so look at our ingredients and tell me that there's nothing in our stuff that is like, man, I wouldn't sit down if I had to and eat this stuff. Again, don't do that. Don't eat it, but you could if you had to. So products are incredible. We've got, as Vicki mentioned in the beginning, 72% repeat purchase rate when we were in our model where people come back over and over and over again. And that brings me to my next one is pillar number 2 is our culture of camaraderie, of building people. You know, if we could sum up everything we're doing here, soap is really just a gateway drug for giving people hope. We're here to serve people well and to build people. And that's what our ambassadors are doing. You know, we're developing leaders and we're creating whatever your goal is. Brings me to my 3rd point. The compensation plan is something I'm very proud of. People are getting results with it. And I believe that there's even more room to grow and expand and shift things in a way that really does. When I first started, the first thing I did was I gathered a group of field experts. I see some of your faces here. We've got Kendra on here and Beth, and Vicki had participation, and Carrie, I see you guys. So many amazing men and women who were like, we've been doing this for years and we see the problem and we want to be part of the solution. And so they gave some extraordinary feedback about what the new guy, we want the new person to win. We want the customer to win. We want the person who's reaching down deep and building and helping mentor. We want them to win, and everybody in between. How can we help everyone win in this process of growing? And I have another another amazing ambassador. She talks about just giving these stay-at-home moms and dads who want the cheese money. For me, it was like my part of my story was crying in the grocery aisle because I couldn't buy cheese, you know, and just that consistent income. And so the comp plan is wonderful, and there's some really great things coming down the pike even within that pillar. And part of that whole thing is the fact that everyone, whatever your goal is, we wanted the customer who's like, hey, I just want to restore my health, or I really want to transform my health and take my power back in my wellness. There's a place for you here. If you're here and you're like, I want to just build a customer base and, you know, make a couple extra $100 a month, there's a place for you here. And for those of you that are like, man, I really want to come into this thing, start out as a side hustle and crush it, and, you know, the sky's the limit. There's a home and a place for you here. And so this is a place to come alive. And the only way to really do that, part of our tagline in MIG is seed to soul. And so it's not enough to give you guys really great skincare and great supplements. We are activating people at a soul level. Like, what's the goal? What's the vision? What's the dream? And we're coming alongside you to activate and to help you in whatever your goals and your dreams are. So Vicki, did you have any other questions? Oh, you're mute again. Okay. Oh, there you
No,
go.
I think you did a beautiful job of laying out the landscape of all the wonderful things from how you got started and your big vision and your purpose and how you want to impact other people's lives. And these are exactly the things that all of us have said yes to. And we're excited that there's other people here who are, being drawn to the opportunity. And I feel certain that, just listening to you share, there's definitely going to be more people who are going to say, yeah, I want to be a part of this. How could I not? Right.
Right.
Did you talk a little bit about your restoration ranch and your situation?
Yeah, I haven't mentioned that one yet. So part of the big vision is, since Nathan and I have been married now, which has been over 17 years, we've talked about this vision for land and a restoration. We used to call it the Renaissance Ranch because we wanted to do something new, but a place where people can come and become activated and refreshed. I grew up on a horse ranch where we used to break Arabian. So a place where people could come and ride horses and go fly fishing and experience farm to table and experience community and be able to go back out, go back home and feel like, man, I'm ready to take on the world again. And that's just one part of this vision piece. Every purchase fuels efforts to support and to end human trafficking and child trafficking. And so there's so many things that we're doing right now and that we want to continue to do, and that is in the business model to reach the far reaches of the earth. And what I love about this model is that we're taking all of you guys that want to be part of it with us. It's like, nobody has to get left behind. So
Yeah, it's like you always say, come as you are, don't stay there, right?
right. That's it. That's it. Yeah. If you're a person sitting in the room and you're saying, I've never sold anything in my life, I've never done anything like this before, but my heart is just screaming yes. Or maybe you're like, I've been in this industry and I've got, questions. That's great. That's the whole come as you are, but we're here to walk alongside you, equip you, and refresh and activate you back into fullness. And so your call to action is really, it starts with yes. I mean, that's where any of us that are going to pursue vision, pursue the dream. Again, it's like, how can we really change the world if we can't pay our bills? And I believe that part of step number one is let's help people fix the money problem, right? Giving them the tools that they need to just go out there and create some minor transformation, whatever the goal is. And the way that we've built this thing is there's so much opportunity for growth within that piece alone. But talk to the person who invited you here. Again, as Vicki said, that person really thought very highly of you. This is a very special and unique community of people who truly are dedicated to transforming an industry. We're doing it differently. We're locking arms together. Nathan and I, you won't find between Nathan and I as founders and the MIG team, you won't find a harder working group of people who care and who are advocating for all of you. And so we're here to lock arms with you and run alongside you and change the world together. And so again, talk to the person who invited you. And we've got the Shed Challenge that starts in a couple of days. They can share more about that. It's all about shedding old habits and toxins and learning more about how to incorporate this whole, good living lifestyle, and lots of great things happening there as well. So we'd love to all see you on the inside on this amazing path, and we're here to support you in every way that we possibly can. So thanks, Vicki. You're amazing. Thank you all for being here, guys.
Bye.
We'll see you soon. And we'll see you, all of our ambassadors, tomorrow morning, 9:30 sharp Mountain Time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jaime.
Bye, guys.